CMV, social media influencers are one of the worst phenomenon born from the technological age. My view has been changed but not reversed. I see now that my argument was both too broad in some parts and too narrow in others. The fact that the term social media influencer applies to such a sheer number of different types of people led to some problems. Problems that defining which kind of influencer I was referring to did not solve. I agree that it was too much of a blanket term, and there are people out there who would be considered influencers by your average Joe who do make a positive impact on people and who are not really contributing to the negative effects on society that the root of my argument or view is based on. The problems I was arguing against are not necessarily caused only by the influencers I had in mind but more a combination of technology and the negative aspects of human nature. Humans have always been self-centered, irrational and greedy. Some more than others. Most of us only experience these natures on a mild level in our day-to-day lives. However, introduce technology and it blows these natures way out of the scope where they can be controlled easily. My view has now encompassed technology as more of a culprit that I gave it credit for and less blame is placed on the influencers themselves. While influencer culture continues to perpetuate the obsession with self and the saturation of advertisements in our daily lives, it is only a symptom of the digital age and not the only cause for all the problems I am seeing. Here is an example of the road I was arguing against: https://legacytoys.com/products/selfie-phone. A selfie phone for babies 3+ months. I also failed to mention that there are baby influencers out there, too many to even fathom. Parents are doing this to their children before they can even walk. This is very concerning. This is the mentality I was arguing against. How does a child learn humility and self-reflection in this environment? How do they know the true meaning of privacy or solitude? This is not the same as paintings or self-portraits. Here is an article a commenter sent me: https://from-self-portraits-to-selfies-evolution-self-expression. It actually strengthens my argument. The journalist in this article is deluded into thinking that the self-reflective and expressive self-portraits of Van Gogh or Frida Kahlo are comparable to the millions of selfies posted online every day. Here is a quote. Constant selfie-taking keeps people more conscious of their appearance, what happened to mirrors, and allows them to share images of themselves that document where they've been and what they've accomplished. I should not have to explain what is wrong with that statement when it is being used to try and equate the self-portraits of masters to selfies from teenagers in their room. Am I saying holiday photos are bad? No. Should you never take a selfie? Of course not. But do not delude yourself into thinking that this carries the same weight or meaning behind it as the self-portraits Frida Kahlo made exploring her life, Mexican culture and her inner turmoil, as the article even quotes itself. Or any other artist for that matter. So, technology is at the root of this and its ability to encourage the worst parts of human nature thrive. I agree that this is something that I should not really have my view changed on. My initial intentions were based on the fact that I strongly believed in my first argument, but because of how strongly I believed it, I wanted to see if I was really right. Could it be challenged? And it could, but I think about my first argument as a crude half-carved block of wood, and now it is a more refined. The real problem is ourselves and human nature and the weakening grasp we have over these negative aspects of ourselves as a society. A result of the almost obnoxious rate technology has transformed our lives. Oh, and by the way, a lot of people seem to assume that I am male. I'm not. Émoticône riant de toutes ses dents. There will be some of you that really think I am just a hater now, I guess. Thank you to all who commented and conversed with me. This was a learning experience and I am grateful for the people who pointed out some flaws in my argument. I will be going back and awarding a few more deltas to the comments that contributed to this redirection in my view. Original post. They serve to advertise and that is it. They advertise for companies and they advertise for themselves. They are ignorantly complicit in helping to fuel the consumerism and narcissism prevalent in society. The ability to become a social media influencer feeds the innate narcissistic aspect of human nature. A society of narcissists is a doomed society. They are not and should never be viewed as role models. And when I say social media influencers, I mean the ones who are just peddling garbage. Others who may be deemed as influencers but are actually just doing it as a side profession to say personal training etc. are still not great IMO but are not the subject of this particular view. I am talking about the people whose feed is just pictures of them with various products. A vanity tour. A charade of life. I am interested to see if anyone can change my view. My disdain for these people is quite strong. Being an influencer should not be an aspiration for children or anyone. It is a detrimental role in society and also for the individual. Edit, thank you for the gold internet stranger. Edit 2, the focus of some people's counterarguments is getting bogged down on the definition of influencer. I will agree that social media influencer was maybe too much of a blanket term, and perhaps the way I explained what kind of influencer I am referring to was not as clear as it could have been. I mean the kind of influencers who the influencer courses and classes are trying to create. The fact those things exist should be concerning. A class on how to be self-centered? The sole purpose just to be an influencer, just to post pictures of yourself so that you get enough attention and likes and followers so companies will start paying you to promote shitty or dangerous products. I have witnessed the evolution of one in a distant social circle. There are influencer agents and agencies all cultivating more and more of these attention-addicted, vacuous people. Placing more and more value on this as a professional is what is damaging. I know I can unfollow these people. The aspiration to become one is more detrimental than being exposed to them, but it's hard to separate the two in most cases. If anything, I now realize this is a more complex issue than I originally gave it credit. Social media influencers are one of the worst phenomenon born from the technological age. I'll choose to tackle this by instead providing many things I consider to be much worse than social media influencers, to refute that they are one of, weasel word, the worst things. Fake news/propaganda outlets, not influencers for the sake of advertising but deliberate false information for political reasons. Clickbait articles drawing attention away from news, etc. Always on connected phones/sites calling back, meaning that advertising profiles are being collected from you constantly, to most, without their understanding or consent. Office workplaces expecting you to be present 24/7 in various chats, even when you are supposed to be sleeping or at home, but even at work, when you are supposed to be working, not reading what Harry had for lunch. Lack of cybersecurity defenses and the amount of companies being hacked/ransomware due to their over-reliance of technology without fully understanding or funding it. 24/7 news cycle, meaning people immediately forget the thing they were just mad about for the next global/international crisis, preventing local change for the better. Dwindling attention spans of the average reader, meaning that decent arguments/articles about real issues get a quick reaction without thinking through the deeper effects. Facial recognition for automatic detection of minorities so they can be retrained in camps. Underpayment and exploitation via globalized gig economy corporations of lower-class workers. Monopoly of information services by single entities, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, Twitter. Cyberbullying hate sites of various influencers. That said, I have serious issues with your definition of a social media influencer, in that it's basically a no true Scotsman argument/fallacy, which you then use as a stereotype to tar them all with the same brush by referring only to the useless as social media influencers. And when I say social media influencers, I mean the ones who are just peddling garbage. Others who may be deemed as influencers but are actually just doing it as a side profession to say personal training, etc. are still not great IMO but are not the subject of this particular view. I consider Linus from Linus Tech Tips to be a positive role model and social media influencer who was not only successful but has spun his personal brand away from a company that didn't appreciate it, continued it on his own, and created an entire media group out of it. He would immediately fail your definition, as you discount anyone doing it as a side profession or the ones just peddling garbage, as he appears to be a really down-to-earth genuine dude with a passion for tech. He does reviews, sponsored bits, secret shopping, and stuff that's simply too absurd to fall under anything but entertainment. But he is a voice of reason in the tech community, a voice of the people, and whilst he is apologetic and empathetic at times to companies, a trait you seem to despise given your arguments, he will still throw companies under the bus for disgraceful behavior to the consumers, his audience. Okay, so maybe the semantics were not set out correctly. I do explain that it is particularly the social media influencers who just take photos of themselves and promote products on Instagram. The kind of influencer that the influencer classes and courses are teaching young people to be. When you say Linus would fail by my definition, maybe you misread something. He would not be classified as one of these vacuous influencers. I love Linus Tech Tips and his videos have actually helped me. I don't even know how you thought I would group him in this category. Has what I have commented elsewhere really been that ambiguous to make you think this? As for the points above this, many of them I agree are worse than useless influencers. Fake news/propaganda outlets, not influencers for the sake of advertising but deliberate false information for political reasons. Clickbait articles drawing attention away from news, etc. Always on connected phones/sites calling back, meaning that advertising profiles are being collected from you constantly, to most, without their understanding or consent. 24/7 news cycle, meaning people immediately forget the thing they were just mad about for the next global/international crisis, preventing local change for the better. Dwindling attention spans of the average reader, meaning that decent arguments/articles about real issues get a quick reaction without thinking through the deeper effects. Facial recognition for automatic detection of minorities so they can be retrained in camps. Underpayment and exploitation via globalized gig economy corporations of lower-class workers. Monopoly of information services by single entities, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, Twitter. However, I would argue that influencer culture goes hand in hand with some of these, especially dwindling attention spans. This is an effect of social media, of which influencers are a huge part. Would it make you feel better if I adjusted the statement to social media influencers are one of the many terrible things born out of the digital age? I would be willing to do this, so if this constitutes changing my view, then you may have the delta. Because it's this culture that is fueling mental health crises and infecting society with robust narcissism. A society that is narcissistic will turn a blind eye to all of the awful things you mentioned above. A society too self-involved to look away from camera to see all of the terrible things going on around them. I would argue that influencers are playing a hand in facilitating some of the other things you mentioned because society is becoming less and less aware of anything but themselves. The rise of individualism will allow the ones in charge to get away with more and more because we are not paying attention. Teaching/encouraging our kids and adults to be influencers is exactly what the other powerful evildoers want. Influencers are like the lapdogs of the corrupt governments and tech giants. They want us to be self-involved, they want us to be hypnotized by our own image and our screens. I don't think we can shrug them off as harmless, vacuous fun. If anything, I am realizing the picture is not black and white and one thing plays into another. Maybe my initial argument was too clear-cut, but I will stand by the statement that influencers, the particular kind I have specified as bad, are very, very detrimental to society and have little value.